Thank you, Kathy and Elizabeth. What wondrous love is this? We want to, hopefully you experience God's love in the service that lies before us, but we also want to be people that extend this love to others. And with that in mind, I want to give an announcement now to a new course that Northgate Church is going to begin offering in just a few weeks. It's called the Alpha Course. I'll give you a little bit of background. It was months ago where myself and some others were in a gathering of pastors of our city, and we began to talk about this Alpha Course. And one of the churches shared how they've been offering it and how it's a course that's designed to help those who are unchurched have a safe space to ask questions and to seek after Jesus to find truth. And we thought, well, that sounds wonderful. And so as we began to continue conversations, we have really developed a multi-church effort strategically this February to offer the Alpha Course at multiple churches in the hopes that we could reach our city for Jesus Christ. To create safe spaces in multiple churches where people can gather and ask questions and hopefully find the answers to those questions in Jesus, who is the way, the truth, and the life. Now, we've been working on this behind the scenes a little bit, and today's the first Sunday that we're really sharing it openly with the church. So out of curiosity, would you stand if you're already committed to participating in Alpha, just so we can see that some work has already been done? So someone, there you go. Okay, stand if you're already committed to being involved in Alpha. That's wonderful. Thank you. Give them a round of applause. A big thank you to Lori. She's the leader of Alpha, and she's going to lead us in this new initiative and this new course that we're offering. And so she's already begun recruiting and training her team. And she's going to come up here in just a moment and share what Alpha is all about. I just wanted to open it up and share that I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see who will gather together to experience God's grace here at in our side door cafe in our youth room that's down in the lower corner. But hopefully you'll be prayerfully considering who you can invite to come into a space like this. But before you can begin inviting people to something, you have to sort of know what it is, right? And so we're going to watch a video, and then Lori's going to come up and explain a little bit more about what this new program is. So let's watch this video together.
Having conversations about life, faith, and Jesus is hard. And this is interesting because at some point, everyone wrestles with life's big questions. Questions about hope, purpose, meaning, and love. Imagine creating a space where people in our community, our friends, neighbors, and coworkers, can come and have conversations in a way that is authentic and unforced. Where leaders don't need to have all the answers, and anyone can ask tough questions and share honestly about what they believe. That's what Alpha is all about. Alpha started in a church in London years ago with a simple idea to engage friends who might not typically go to church. Lives were transformed, and it began to grow all over the world. Today, you can find Alpha in schools, coffee shops, church buildings, prisons, and homes. And so far, millions of people have experienced Alpha. So what is Alpha? Alpha is a series of interactive sessions exploring the basics of the Christian faith. In each session, you eat food, listen to a talk, and have discussions in small groups. Eating food together creates space for people to connect, relax, and build friendships. The talks tackle core questions about life and faith from a Christian perspective. And the discussion allows people to unpack these ideas without fear of being corrected or judged. All of this is done in a fun environment where anyone is welcome. There are 3 main sets of talks you could use: the Alpha Film Series, Alpha with Nikki Gumbel, and the Alpha Youth Series. Each is designed with a different audience in mind and is typically run over 8 to 12 weeks, with a weekend away where there are opportunities to experience worship through music and moments for prayer. Alpha also comes with everything you need to empower others to be involved, like discussion guides and training videos for you and your team. And all the talks and tools are available online and can be downloaded for free. By running Alpha, you're creating a space where people can connect with each other and connect with God. Sign up, get started, run Alpha today.
Good morning. My name's Lori. I'm the privilege of leading our Alpha team that starts next month. So just to review a little bit about what Alpha is. Alpha is a 9-week program designed to create a space for honest conversation around some of life's biggest questions. And it helps bring people together to provide the opportunity to know Jesus. Alpha was started in the UK actually in the 1970s, and it's been internationally recognized as a wonderful evangelism program. So we're really excited to have that here at Northgate. So what does Alpha look like? We every night will share a meal together, and then we'll listen to a talk that addresses some of the foundational things about Christianity and faith and life. And then the most important part is we're going to have a small group discussion, and that's where our guests have the opportunity to ask questions in a safe and non-judgmental environment. And then we'll have some moments of prayer incorporated in there as well. Who should come to Alpha? So the target that we want people who wouldn't normally go to church, friends, family who don't know the Lord, and then maybe people who are just new in their faith or seeking or like interested in maybe finding out who Jesus is. So I would like to invite up Hannah and Annetta. So Hannah and Annetta are both wonderful ladies who have experienced Alpha at their previous churches, so we want them to come up and tell us a little bit about their experience. So Hannah and her husband Ryan have been coming to Northgate for a few months since November, so it's been special getting to know her. We're in a Friday morning Bible study together. And Annetta has, she in the UK had some experience working in Alpha, and so she has a cool perspective too that she's going to talk to us about. Thanks for being here, ladies. So Annetta, I'll ask you first. Would you tell us a little bit about your involvement with Alpha?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, my experience with Alpha is over in the UK, while I was working for a missions organization over there, and it's really prevalent in the UK to see churches around the area doing it. It works in big churches, small churches, lots of different styles of churches, so it's pretty common for people to engage in it and know that it's an option. And I was really excited to hear that it was coming to Northgate. It's something that I recently was like, oh, it'd be so great if Northgate did Alpha. And then a few weeks later, Lori's like, guess what? We're doing this. And I was like, that's amazing. So most of the churches do it a couple times a year. It's part of their annual rotation that about every 6 months they'll do Alpha. I've done it as just general support, setup, helping to run the tech during the session, help prepare meals, but I've also done it as a group leader as well, and being able to participate in the conversations and see the impact that it makes with people as they're working through that journey of what it means to be a Christian and what it means to engage with Christianity. And some of the best conversations, as a group leader, you don't have to know all the answers. You're not there to be a Bible scholar. You're really just there to facilitate conversations and to keep it focused on the topic. But some of the best opportunities are when, as a group leader, you're willing to say, I don't know, I've not thought of that before, or let's discover this together, and you journey with them as they're asking these big questions.
Exactly. That's what's special about Alpha is we can be equipped to just build relationships and create a safe environment, and it's all about just showing the love of Christ. That's awesome. What about, tell us about some of the guests who came and the impact Alpha had on them.
Yeah, so a lot of people that are unchurched, their key awareness of Christianity is through pop culture, or maybe oh, my grandma was a Christian. They don't have a lot of firsthand information about Christianity. So when they come in, they might have a lot of misconceptions about what it means to be a Christian. And so this is, again, an opportunity for them to ask some of those questions and learn about Christianity firsthand. It's not just for people that are unchurched. It's also maybe for people, as the slides were saying, we want to target people as well who are really new Christians, because this is some of the fundamental basics of our faith that don't always come up on a Sunday morning or in a Sunday school class. And it's an opportunity for them to ask these questions when they're not in a place where they're like, oh, everyone else in the room knows the answer. I can't ask this question. So it's a great opportunity for them to learn about their faith as well. And I think one of the biggest takeaways in regards to the impact is just the relationship that it builds. People that end up joining churches after they've gone through an Alpha course, I've seen them be a lot more invested in the church. They get involved right away because they've already been part of this church community for weeks and weeks beforehand. And so when they finally make that step and they say, yeah, I want to become a Christian, or I want to join this church and I want to continue on this journey, it's a way for them to be really impacted and impact the church itself around them. We've seen small groups come from it, Bible studies come from it, really deep friendships come from it, and you get a lot more longevity and involvement from people after Alpha.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Real briefly, just tell us a favorite memory or experience from your time serving in Alpha in the past.
Yeah, so I had a lot of things to sift through, so I had to pick my favorite one. And I think the one that stood out the most to me was actually as we were setting up for one of the last Alpha sessions that I was involved in before coming back to the States. And the people that were helping set it up with me, a lot of them had been part of Alpha prior, the one that was prior. And some of those people had become really close friends of mine. We'd done Bible studies together after that, and they'd started serving in the church on the youth team. And now they were here helping to prepare for the first session of the next group of people that were going to come into Alpha. And they'd been so impacted by it that they wanted to then invest in the next round of it because they felt it was so beneficial for them and their lives. And just to see that cycle and how they didn't just come in and get something from it, but they wanted to then take it on to the next thing and invest in the next generation of people that were going to do the Alpha course.
Thank you. That's awesome. Hannah, would you tell us a little bit about your experience with Alpha in the past?
Yeah, sure. I lived in New York City for a little bit, and our church did Alpha, and we didn't have a brick and mortar building. We were renting the basement of the YMCA on Sundays. And so when we brought Alpha to the church, there was a host family that had invited everyone over to their apartment. So I helped with food and just preparation. So I would get to the apartment and set up the food, set up the drinks. And a lot of my job was really helping to create sort of like a dinner party feel. When our guests came in, we just really wanted to welcome them. They were, of course, meeting a lot of people that they didn't know. And what was really cool was just because churches are multi-generational, when you're inviting people, some people were inviting a college friend, or some people were inviting a neighbor that lived in their apartment, or a brother or a sister. So it was really wonderful to kind of get to know so many different kind of people and walks of life, and create a very big sense of hospitality and welcoming with food and drink.
That's exactly what we're going for with Alpha, and that's why they emphasize having a meal together, because it's a way to facilitate building relationships and opening up that line of communication, and we want it to feel like we're welcoming them to our home. So thanks for sharing that experience. Hannah, will you tell us how your church supported Alpha, and what was that impact on the volunteers?
Yeah, because we couldn't fit the whole church in someone's apartment, we had a really big emphasis on prayer, which since learning that Northgate was doing Alpha, I reached out to the hosts, because they're still very good friends of mine, and we were just kind of reminiscing over the times, and they just gave such a great reminder that it's so easy to approach something like Alpha and in our flesh think that we're going to win people to Christ with like the right answer, or just how we're just going to be super persuading that day. And they just said there was such an emphasis, and I do remember there being such an emphasis on prayer, and our job was to be there and to be stewards, and to let the Holy Spirit do what the Holy Spirit does and change hearts. And our job was to listen a lot. You really came to those sessions, and we really prayed for just ways to respond to the stories that people would share. And it, again, with the meal and with it being more intimate, it does really create a safe space for people to open up and want to share things that maybe they wouldn't have shared before. So prayer was a huge part, prayer and listening.
That's a good segue into how can Northgate be involved with Alpha? Thank you for asking, everyone. So there are a few ways that Northgate can be involved. First and foremost, like Hannah was talking about, is prayer. We need the whole church to cover Alpha in prayer. Please be praying for each other as we consider who to invite. You can pray for our team as we're building a relationship with guests, and we'll pray that God will just reach the guests, because ultimately He's going to get to their heart, and that's our prayer. So we are building a prayer team for people to just pray on Thursday nights during Alpha. So if you would love to pray on Thursday nights, you can sign up in the foyer. There's a sign-up sheet, and we'll kind of reach out each week and tell you how specifically you can pray. So our next slide, we're going to talk about how you can be involved. So if you're sitting there thinking like, Alpha is awesome, I want to be involved, how can I be involved? There's a couple ways. So you can donate supplies or prepare food. Emily Wakely is our awesome food team leader, so she'll be in the foyer after church, and you can see her to sign up for helping with food. You can join our prayer team, like I just mentioned. That's really important. And we also need a few childcare workers, because we want to offer that on Thursdays for guests and volunteers. So if you're free and able to do that, that'd be great. Lastly, you can be inviting. So the guest registration is officially open, and we would love it if everybody in our church would invite at least one person to attend Alpha. We all have friends, neighbors, coworkers who don't know the Lord, and so please invite them to Alpha. Explain to them it's a way to just have an honest conversation about faith in Jesus in a very non-judgmental or pressure way, and you're welcome to come with them. With the guests that you invite. And worst case scenario, you get free food, so that's pretty cool. This week, again, we encourage all of you to pray about who you will invite to Alpha. And next week, we're going to hear some testimonies from people who have been guests at Alpha, so that'll be exciting. And we'll learn more about who and how to invite someone to attend. And again, if you're willing to volunteer or donate or join our prayer team, please go in the foyer after church.